There it goes.
All right, so how's everybody doing tonight? Jamie McDonald here. This is the Maiden Voyage of the Mirrorless Minutes podcast. So I'll give you a little bit of a breakdown on what exactly this show is all about. It's all about mirrorless photography. So we're the people that kind of eschewed the big bulky DSLRs and we transitioned over to mirrorless cameras. I specifically shoot with generally the OMDs, shoot with Olympus products primarily, exclusively, I guess I should say. And my co-host here, Mike, same thing, just kind of pushed all the big bulky stuff out of the way and started shooting with the mirrorless stuff. So pretty much we're going to be talking about mirrorless cameras, mirrorless camera accessories, and I'm not going to limit it to just the interchangeable lens cameras. I do a lot with the point and shoots as well, and they're mirrorless. I'm not going to focus heavily on those, but they'll probably come up from time to time. We'll also share some of the things that we've been shooting lately. We'll share apps. We'll share books, websites, things like that. So, and we'll have guests on. The show is going to be bi-weekly. That doesn't mean 2 times a week. That means every other week, as I've already been asked. Wow, 2 times a week? I don't have time for that. I don't think Mike does either. So, that's just a little bit of a breakdown of what the show is. Every other Wednesday, 8 p.m. You know, both of us have travel schedules sometimes to deal with, so it might just be one of us flying solo, and if that's the case, we'll try to have a guest on to fill in. So let me just introduce Mr. Mike here. Let's go ahead, Mike, take over.
Well, thanks a lot, and hello everyone, welcome, and it's real exciting to be starting this event. I mean, talking mirrorless cameras and Olympus and that, I think Jamie and I have done a couple sort of hangouts on the side, and after an hour goes by, we go, oh crap, we've been talking for an hour, we haven't realized it. So it's definitely an exciting time to get going and see what's happening out there. You know, and just to give you a little bit idea about myself, a little bit of an intro and background. As Jamie said, we shed those large DSLRs. I shot with Nikon full frame for probably 4 years, and around 2012 I picked up that first EM5. And like many that I've shot with, same thing. As soon as they got that Olympus, more and more the Nikon stayed home, and all of a sudden the Nikon started collecting a lot of dust. It just wasn't as easy. I do a lot of urban stuff, a lot of urban exploring, and carrying that kind of equipment in and out of a building just doesn't work with a lot of Nikons. You certainly can do it, but it sure is a lot easier getting around and knowing if you got to crawl down on your hands and knees. It's a lot easier to use the OMDs, and when you start putting on some of those prime lenses, you'll notice real quick that you've got just as much or more than your big full frames. At least in my opinion, I've done some amazing stuff and printed 20 by 30 with no problem at all. In fact, behind me I've got a couple. I got a 20 by 30 koala bear there from San Diego Zoo, shot at 300 millimeters, and that thing printed out perfect. So it's a great opportunity, and I think one of the other things that really convinced me to get going after that EM5 is that EM1, when that came out, and Olympus took a huge step in my mind, and started going after the Pro version and that 12 to 40 lens, and those are some amazing pieces, and it just makes you delve more into it. So it's going to be an exciting show. We've got a lot of cool people that said they want to come on and talk, and I know we both run a lot of different things, and it's been exciting today to see how many subscribers we've had already just after a few hours. So hopefully we'll get some great questions and help spread the word about mirrorless.
Right? I know sometimes that's what I feel like I'm evangelizing the system, but the more people that kind of pick one up and shoot with it for a day, I've converted so many people. I love to say that I've converted people, But so that was Mike. And I'll just do a little short background on me. Jamie McDonald. I live here in Michigan, same as Mike does. So I guess Mike kind of lives down right this way. Yeah. I live like right about here. I like, that's the Michigan thing right there.
Yeah.
So I've been shooting for about 7 years now. I started off with an Olympus E500 DSLR. And the only reason I got that specific camera was because it was cheap. It was affordable. You know, it was a 2-lens kit, and it was for like $500. And I got that camera because I was taking a family trip to Florida. It was my son's first time leaving the state and flying on a plane, and I thought to myself, you know, I need one of those cameras that the lenses come off on so I can take like pro photos and stuff. And so that was the reason that I got my first digital camera, you know. And I haven't looked back since. And you know, about the time that the pen line came out, I was kind of interested in what they were doing with that. I liked the thought of a smaller camera, but the pens didn't really do it for me. Then when the EM5 came out, I saw that and I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to try this out. So I ordered an EM5, got it in my hands, and the minute I looked through the EVF and realized that as I was making an exposure compensation change, I was watching it in real time on the screen. I thought, holy crap, this is awesome. You know, I know exactly what I'm going to get out of my camera before I even release the shutter. And after shooting with it for a few months, I said, you know what, I'm selling all my big gear. I want to go smaller. I want to be able to take a lot more gear with me into the field, you know, so that I don't ever feel like I'm making that choice. You know, do I want to bring some telephotos, you know, and larger lenses because I'm going to shoot wildlife, or do I want to bring something wider because I'm going to do landscapes? I didn't have to make that decision. I could just bring it all. So that was kind of like my transition into mirrorless. And about the time that I made that transition, I've always been active socially, you know, Twitter and Facebook and Flickr, and I mean, good Lord, if you name a social media outlet, you know, I've been involved in it in one way or another. You know, I'm trying to be an early adopter with those things. And so I was pushing out all the work that I was doing and sharing it, you know, and sharing what equipment I was using. And I got in touch with the people at Think Tank Photo, you know, because I was setting up a photo walk, and kind of chatted with their social media guy for a little bit, and he set me up for one of my photo walks with some gear. And I told him, I said, man, it'd be cool if I could get Olympus to get involved with something like that because I love their stuff. And he said, well, I just happen to know the email address of the president of Olympus Europe, and I'll set you up with him. So one thing led to another, you know, I'll keep it short. I emailed him. He says, I can't help you. I'm Europe. I can set you up with Olympus North America. And I thought, yeah, here we go. You know, I'll email them and I'll never hear back. Well, I did, because they had noticed what I'd been doing socially online. Put me in this like little loaner program. There were only a couple of people that they were just shipping out gear to, you know, and I was totally stoked to get the phone call saying, hey, we're going to loan you gear, you know, whenever you want it. Just keep doing what you're doing. We like what you're doing. I did that for almost 2 years, and then got a phone call one day from them inviting me into the Olympus Visionary program. They saw the progression in my work. They saw that I was still really active socially. They liked that I was kind of becoming, I don't want to say a spokesperson for them, but I guess you could say that I was, I'm an ambassador. I like that term. I use that term a lot. So I'm like a brand ambassador for them. So I was brought on board the Visionary program, and this is my 3rd year in it. The title that I hold is an Olympus Trailblazer. I'm kind of one step down from the Visionaries. Those are the guys that have the Pulitzer Prizes and the Nat Geo photographers. You know, I mean, these are really highly established and awarded and decorated photographers, and I'm trying to work my way up to that. So I'm currently an Olympus Trailblazer, and what that means is, you know, I shoot exclusively with their gear. I get opportunities to do advertising stuff for them, teach classes, do social engagements, you know, speaking engagements. I just got back from Boston where I did one there for them. So as a like a little waiver or disclaimer, you can expect from me pretty much 99.9% Olympus leaning stuff, you know. I'm not gonna pay any attention to, I'm not gonna not pay attention to stuff like from Panasonic or other systems like that. As long as it's, you know, Micro Four Thirds, I'm all about it. You know, I'm all about furthering that system, and Olympus kind of feels the same way. You know, I will totally promote a Panasonic lens if it gets you into the Micro Four Thirds, you know, environment. So that's me. I know I like to talk a lot, and I can go on and on, but so that's who Jamie is. You know, I'm an Olympus fanatic. So I guess I'll leave it at that. I don't want to gush too much. But,
yeah, well, that's you got to tell a little bit about what you were doing there in Boston for a minute. Sounds pretty exciting.
Boston was a blast. So it was my first, like, you know, big event for Olympus. Hunt's Camera is probably the biggest chain of camera stores in New England, and they do 4 events every year. They do one with Nikon, they do one with Canon, they do one with Olympus, and they do one with Tamron. And they choose different venues for each one, and they're usually part of this big heritage trust. There are all these properties that are maintained by this group of people. They're historic sites. So Hunt's Camera had me out, and Olympus had me out for one at Appleton Farms in Ipswich, Massachusetts, which is actually the oldest working farm in the United States. The property was given to the Appleton family in the 1600s. Beautiful property, I think 400 acres. The original home was on it, a beautiful carriage house. So the gist of the whole thing was, as I went there, it was a test drive experience for people, so they could come, and Olympus had a table set up, and they had just a boatload of camera gear. They had EM1s, EM5s, EP5s, EM10s, darn near any lens you could think of for the Micro Four Thirds system. They had them all there. All the primes, the zooms, the body cap lenses, you name it. So people show up there as a paid event. They pay to go. I presented there. The focus of my presentation was finding your muse, which for me over the past couple of years, as silly as this may sound to some people, has been a barn. It's a incredible, giant old hay barn in the middle of this field. It's pretty awe-inspiring when you see it in certain conditions. So I talked about finding a muse and just how you revisit a site over and over again at different times, and you get to learn what the light is like at different times of day. And I gave the presentation about my barn in a barn. It just worked out really good. And then once I was done with my presentation, I did a little Q&A during and after the presentation. Once it was done, everybody went outside. They got their hands on some awesome gear from Olympus, and we walked around for like 3.5 hours on this 400-acre property, and it was a blast. It was such a good time. And I'm looking forward to doing it again because I like to do the photo walk thing like you do. So any chance I get to interact with a large group of people and then put some of the gear in their hands so that they can kind of see what it is, what they're potentially missing. I know it's not necessarily for everybody, but you'd be crazy to not at least hold on to one, shoot with it for an afternoon, and then kind of make your decision after playing with it and experiencing some of the primes and the high-end zooms and stuff. So that's what it was, And I'll tell you what, I haven't gotten the numbers back from anybody at Olympus yet, but I guarantee we sold cameras that day because people were just floored. When they got the chance to work with somebody who's experienced in using the gear, I could show them, these are some of the benefits, some of the perks of using this versus your DSLR, And again, the one that I like to throw right up front is what you see is what you get. What you see in your EVF is what shows up on your screen, and how can you beat that? I told people, I said, I've shot weddings, and the camera doesn't come down from my eye. I shoot, and then I'm moving on to the next thing to shoot, and I'm moving on to the next thing. And I've actually been asked by a guest, well, how do you know what you're getting? I haven't seen you look at your camera at all. So I don't need to. Well, I know what I'm going to get right out of the camera, and that's just how it is. It's one of those perks, I guess.
Yeah, that's when you're when you live here,
yes, sir,
you can see barns. When you live here, not a lot of barns. So
right.
we have more old buildings, but there's a lot of cool barns in mid-Michigan for sure. So you can have that. There's some barns here, but that sounds great. I'll tell you that. I think that's exactly it. I know when I've been to a couple workshops this past year, and a couple people where I had my EM1 and my EM10 with me. I let them shoot with the 10 for a bit or whatever, or the 1, and they start walking with it. First they're looking at the menu and they're going, what do I got to do here? You show them a couple quick things. You can shoot just like this, and all of a sudden they start making those adjustments inside that EVF, and they go, wow, this is not something that I can do. With my big camera, and I'm just carrying it. It doesn't feel like anything on me, And when you shoot with a 300mm lens that actually goes out to 600mm, it makes a little bit of difference. People can't really afford that 600mm Nikon f4. Yeah, a little expensive.
So you mentioned my location in Michigan. We've got a lot of farmland, and we've got a couple of larger city areas. Nothing like where you're at. So why don't you let the viewers know Where are you from? Where are you at? What do you shoot?
Yep. Well, I'm just outside of Detroit, not in Detroit, but I do a lot of work in Detroit. I've actually done some work for the Detroit Visitors Bureau. The magazines that sit inside hotels. If you come to Detroit, I'll have work done in there. I'll have some stuff, some pictures of Belle Isle, one of the famous islands just off Detroit here. I'll have some pictures of that, and a couple things that we've done at Greenfield Village. I've done some shoots there for some Christmas events and that. And then, this is not my full-time job by any means. I know, like Jamie, either. We both have real, at least I'll call it my mortgage-paying job. And that one takes me all over the country. So that's one of the nice things. Get done with a day of work, and hopefully there's enough time left in the day to quick hit a sunset or something wherever you might be, whether it's, Washington, D.C., San Diego, San Francisco, wherever it might be. It's a lot of fun to be able to try to do that. So that's why I get to, that's probably my main reason for even starting with that smaller camera. I follow a lot of people online, like I'm sure Jamie does, and one of the guys is Derek Story, who does an amazing job with mirrorless cameras, and I know taking workshops from him, and when I saw him walking around streets and stuff with that EM5, I said, I got to get me one of those. I just have to have it because I can't stand lugging, 3 extra pieces of luggage so I can take shots. Now everything fits in my carry-on. I move, I go, and that's that. So, yeah, and mainly now what I'm doing a whole lot of is street shooting. Out taking pictures of people in the streets and doing a lot of teaching lately with street photography. We've got an exciting weekend coming up, actually this weekend in Chicago, taking 10 great photographers from not only Michigan but Philadelphia. There's some from Philadelphia. We've got actually some people coming from Chicago, and we're going to do some street shooting in Chicago, but also some long exposure night photography. Got a 130-year-old church set up that they're going to allow us to come in and shoot pictures inside the church. And then we've got a tour through the Chicago River, an architecture tour, but only for photographers on Sunday morning. So there's some nice setups, and you just do a lot of teaching and do that through Discover Your World Photography, and we'll leave links to that. And if you're ever interested, it's a great group of photographers, and should be a lot of fun this weekend.
So I guess, what should we tell people that your style of photography is? I like doing this because you're like I am when it comes to that. So what are you classified as, Mike? What kind of photographer are you?
Right. That kind.
Exactly. Yep.
Exactly. When I find the classification, I'll let you know, and then I'll be disappointed if I ever get classified.
Best answer ever.
Yep. I'll be real disappointed. But right now, definitely urban. Urban's something that's in my blood, and I went to college down in Detroit, and so I definitely like that kind of environment. But I've got some stuff to share. I went out the other night and took pictures of sunflowers with the supermoon. I don't know, that wasn't too urban, So whatever's out there, I want to shoot it. If it's falling in front of my lens, I go, I gotta capture that. And I know you're the same way. I mean, between spiders and your shots of spiders and bugs. Didn't you just have one go on Explore too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Flickr?
Yeah, hummingbird moth,
Yeah. That's what, yeah.
I've seen them and never had the opportunity to shoot one, and I had the EM1 and 75mm f1.8 on at a family gathering, actually, and out of the corner of my eye, I see something moving around through the flowers, and I thought, oh, I know what this is. I could just tell by its movement. I'm kind of weird like that. So I ran over and fired off a couple of rounds of shots and got a winner. But I'm like you, I don't want to be pigeonholed into one category. I feel like anybody can focus on one thing and just keep doing it, getting better and better and better and better. But I don't want to run with blinders on. There's so much out there to see. I feel like if I'm focusing on macro photography, I'm missing a sunset, or I'm missing a storm, or I'm missing people walking down the street in the evening with long shadows. I mean, there's just so much to shoot. Why would you limit yourself. I can understand some people have to limit themselves because it's a financial thing. This is their living. They're making a living.
Right.
But for most of us that aren't making 100% living off of shooting, don't limit yourself. I mean, that's my opinion. Don't limit yourself. Go shoot everything. Life is a beautiful thing. Shoot as much of it as you can. Share as much of it as you can.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, last year I shot over 100 headshots for, a Fortune 500 company, and I remember laughing when I got asked to do it. I said, "Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me!" After all the urban exploration and abandoned buildings, I'm getting asked to do this. But that was one of the greatest things. Traveling to 17 cities, figuring out all the stuff I needed to get to begin with, and making it all happen. And at the end, the client's happy, and things were able to be done. So, I don't know if I'll focus on headshots for the rest of my life. I can tell you that. But,
yeah.
But I think it's an interesting thing when you got a camera that can do as much as mirrorless can. It just makes it a lot easier to not be so pigeonholed.
Right.
For sure.
So, we spent the majority of the show so far just kind of talking about who we are.
Right.
And I figured we'd kind of transition out of this phase of our first show and just do what we would do for all of our other shows down the road will be formatted. So we'll kind of do, the introduction thing. We won't talk about who we are anymore.
Yeah.
Go back and watch episode 1 for that. We'll talk to a guest or whatever, but then we'll kind of save the end of the show, and I figured what we'd end up doing is we'll probably share what we've been shooting lately, because I like that aspect of a show, is being able to share what you do. But then Mike had the great idea of sharing not just our work, but things that we're getting inspiration or use from, whether it be a new piece of gear or an application or a book or a website. So I guess with that said, I'll hand it over to Mike, who's got some work to share that he's been shooting, and then we'll go from there and share an app that I've been using, and we'll just
sounds
good. Close it out.
All right, let me get this screen share here. And we're hoping that everything works right as we tried before. Let's see, can you see that? Can you see the bridge at all on that thing?
Yep, I sure do.
All right, good. Well, if you're from Michigan, you probably already know what this is, but that's the mighty Mackinac. And, that's just this past weekend. A horrible day. It was up in the middle of the state in Grayling, pouring, and I said, let's drive up to Mackinac, and sure enough, it wasn't raining. It looked bad, but, I shot there with that 75 to 300 out at about 170, I think about 177 millimeters, but it's a huge bridge and just an amazing structure. I've seen Golden Gate and bridges all over the place, but I'll tell you this, I forget how good this one is. I'm sure you've seen that before too, Jamie.
Oh, yes.
There.
Yeah.
And let's see. I'm going to pop over. I'll just share a couple. This is here's one. Here's our sunflower. Sunflowers in Howell, Michigan. So that's about as much country as you can get on the east side of the state in Howell, Michigan. But jumping out at the blue hour there, and shot again with that 75 to 300 with the EM1. And it's all those sunflowers. It just looked like they were reaching to go home or something. It was an interesting shot there. Let's check out a couple here. Couple little urban things. I was in Atlantic. Actually, wasn't in Atlantic City, but in New Jersey last week. And this is over in Philadelphia. Another bridge. This is actually taken with the EM10 and using that art filter. This is one of the things that I probably never would have done with my DSLR, is use anything like an art filter or anything like that. And I've so totally changed with that situation. And I think you know what I'm saying there, Jamie. I mean, this stuff, is that pop art one, and it's just amazing what that thing can do. And this one, sometimes it'll go overboard, but you know what? This one didn't. It was a perfect time for it. Getting the reflections within the water, the mass of the boats there, and that. Real simple. But so if you're in New Jersey, we had to jump over to Atlantic City, and I'll show you two quick ones of some people on the streets. This guy, he loved that I was taking his picture. I'm sure you can tell. And when I saw that sign there that said, "Don't just sit there, win something," and saw him sitting there. This is a bike that people sit in this, and they push him around on the boardwalk. Can you see that guy, Jamie?
Oh yeah, sure can. He
Yeah,
looks
he
real
wasn't.
happy.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy with me. I was probably about 8 feet from him, But I told him, hey, it was cool, good shot. Showed him the shot and moved on. But yeah, it was an interesting street situation there.
Do you remember what lens you were using for that shot?
Yeah, that was the 14 to 42, the EZ lens,
Okay,
a
cool.
real small.
Yep.
I would call that the almost body cap lens.
Yep.
Great one to have on the camera because I can actually fit that camera in a jacket pocket or anything. And then one last one, same thing here, taking this picture of people, mom and daughter walking down the boardwalk, and just her daughter was getting in. There's no music playing, but she was having a blast.
That's
And
awesome.
it's got a retro feel to it, so I said, I got to have that shot there. But yeah, that lens, I'll come back there. That little lens is amazing. What you can do with it, and as far as getting even close, near macro on that thing, I've had a blast. Put that on the EM10, and to me that's an ultimate street shooting.
It is.
Camera.
It's a pocket powerhouse that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is. So you say you got an app or something?
Yes,
I know
so,
what you're talking about.
It's funny. Like I didn't talk enough about my barn, right? So, and I'll show what I'm talking about here. So, this app that I like to use to help me, I've been trying to plan out shots a little bit better as far as like sunsets are concerned or moonrise. With all the freaking hype over supermoon, we get a supermoon, it seems like every month,
Mm-hmm.
if you listen to Facebook. But regardless, if you wanted to know where the moon was rising or the sun was setting at a specific geographic location on a specific day of the month from now to infinity, I use what's called the photographer's ephemeris, which is this app right here. So what you're looking at is actually the last time I had it pulled up, I had it set. You can see looks like the little Google Maps marker right there. And what you see right below that marker is, I call it my barn. It's the barn I shoot all the time. And what you see here in front of you is the sunrise and sunset and the moonrise and moonset. And if you look over to the right, you'll see the actual time. And I'm not a cartographer, and I don't get into how many degrees off of true north or whatever everything's coming up or setting at or whatever the azimuth and elevation. I just know if I look at this, I know pretty certain which direction the sun is going to set in or rise in, and the same with the moon and the approximate time. So I've used this actually several times to figure out where I need to be at a specific time so that I can get a photograph with the sun where I want it or the moon where I want it, like in the case of all the supermoons that we've been mysteriously getting all of a sudden.
Yeah, right.
So, and I should have taken the time, with all the setup before this first show, I didn't stop and look to see. I don't remember if I bought this app or if it's free. So I guess you'd have to get on, like this was downloaded from the Mac App Store, I believe. And I honestly couldn't tell you right now if it was free or if it was a paid app. And that's something that I can look up for you guys and throw it in the show notes after the show is done. But that's just what I wanted to share, was the photographer's ephemeris. It's awesome for, like here in Michigan, we've got so many lighthouses, it's insane. And a lot of them are on Lake Michigan, which is on the west side of the state. And Lake Michigan sunsets, I'll tell you what, I've seen sunsets in Maui. I've seen sunsets on the west coast of Florida. The ones on Lake Michigan, they win. They really do. I don't know what it is about, and I'm not just being biased about the state that I live in. They really are phenomenal. So every time we go to the west side of the state, I know approximately what time the sun's going to set, and I know where I need to be facing given our location so that I can get a sunset where I want it, so I can frame it accordingly towards the lighthouses or whatever landmark I've got in the foreground. So photographer's ephemeris. Again, it'll be in the show notes for those who are interested in using it. And they do have a mobile app as well. I don't have my phone up here with me, but it is available for iOS and Android. So put it on a tablet, put it on your phone.
Yeah, definitely get that. I know that's what I'm using when I'm out on the road, is the one that's on the phone. And that's a great app.
Yep.
I mean, I'd use it constantly.
And it's not just, for people who are like me that shoot out in the countryside. I don't know if people are familiar with Manhattan Henge, which is basically a sunset at a certain time of year in Manhattan where the sun is setting right down. I don't know what boulevard or avenue that is. But it's a cool thing to shoot, and with that app you would know exactly when you can do it.
Well, that's exactly right. Same thing in Chicago. It doesn't have necessarily the Chicago henge, but where that thing hits, during the day is a great way to shoot street photography if you know what buildings are coming around the corner. I try to use that the same way, for those things for sure.
Now, did you still have a book that you wanted to recommend to everybody?
Yeah, I do. I do want to recommend, since we're talking about Chicago, and we've got a buddy named Chris Smith, and you may follow him already. He does the Out of Chicago website, and it's a great website, and I know one thing he always talks about is talking about Out of Chicago isn't necessarily about just Chicago. If you get on that website, it's about street shooting, it's about city and urban shooting, and he does a lot of stuff. He does stuff for the Chicago Botanical Gardens. He'll talk about how to shoot it. But one of the things, he wrote an ebook. It's on Amazon. We'll put the link in there. And that ebook is the 100 best places to shoot in Chicago. And not only does he give you a great, book to say, hey, shoot it like this, he'll tell you, can you bring a tripod in or not into the place? What does it cost to park nearby? He gives you a couple of suggestions on walking routes and how you can hit these 5 really cool highlight areas, and do it with this, only park in one place. Really, he's really thought this thing through, and I think the best thing is for us photographers is, hey, is a tripod allowed? Am I going to get kicked out of this building? Things like that. And he's gone through and been kicked out and told what to do a couple times, so he's got it all locked in the book. So I think it's only $9 or $10, and it's really worth the download on Amazon. We'll put the link, and I also check out his site too, that Out of Chicago. We'll put that link there too, to see what's going. Offers a great conference. Got a big one planned next year. Valerie Jardin, the street photographer, and all kinds of people he's talking to get there. Who knows who you're going to see there next year. So hopefully we see some people we know.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so I think we've hit our 30-minute mark. Initially the talk was we try to keep these shows at about 30 minutes. We don't want anybody falling asleep in case we don't have super exciting things to share. But just so it's known, when we have guests on, it'll probably run to about 45 minutes. I definitely want to give guests plenty of time to say what they have to say. We want them to get the most out of the show. So plan on 30 to 45 minutes for our show, everybody. And I guess this is going to be a wrap for tonight. So I thank you all for tuning in and for subscribing. It was mind-blowing that I just started launching out, the little social campaign literally the day of, and 90 subscribers at last count within one day. So that's great, for us to see that from you guys. If you get a chance, hit that thumbs up thing right down there for this video, or if you're watching it on YouTube, because the more ratings we can get boosted, the better off we're going to be. We can make this show even better for you. And again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll let Mike say goodbye to everybody.
All right, everyone. Thanks a lot again. We appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, and looking forward to 2 weeks from now talking to you all again. Thanks, everyone. See ya.